So what we're going to do in this section is display the activities the user is going to, and we want to give them some filters, and we'll use tabs to choose the different filters for this as well, so that when a user comes to a user's profile they can take a look and see which activities a user has been attending. So let's head back to VS Code and set up this functionality. And this isn't really covering anything new, so what we'll do is we'll use quite a few snippets here to help us out, to save us typing similar code again. And we'll really just discuss what's going on in here. So first of all, let's create what we want to return for each of these user activities. So inside our profiles folder, we'll create a new C# class and we'll call it user activity DTO. And all we want to return for this is really just 4 properties. We want to return the GUID of the ID of the activity, and we'll need to bring in system, and we also want the string for the title and the string for the category so that we can display the image for the event, and we'll also get the date time of the activity as well. And we'll just be returning these 4 properties when we request the user activities. We don't need to display all of the attendees. We certainly don't need the comments or anything along those lines for what we're doing here. And then what we'll do also inside the profiles is we'll create a new C# class for the handler for this, and we'll just call it list activities and press return. Now, as I mentioned, we're not really covering anything new at this stage, so what I'm going to do, just to save a bunch of time, is we're going to use a snippet for this and we'll just talk through it. So what we want to use is S21.10.1, which is going to be our full code for the activities list handler. So let's bring this in. And this is the entire handler. There's really no need to go through and type all this out manually. This is really just for completionist purposes, so that we add the functionality inside our application, and we're really just going to talk through it. So we've got our query class, and this is going to take our string of username and our predicate as its parameters, and then we've got our handler logic, and we're just bringing in our data context as normal. And we're going to go and get the user for the username we're passing in. Because we're looking at a user's profile, we don't need the currently logged in user. This could be any user. So we're going to get this user and return a not found REST exception if the user isn't found. And then we're going to start to build up our queryable. And we're going to get this from our user activities. We're going to order by the activity date and set it as a queryable. And then we've got a switch statement based on the request.predicate. And we've got 3 different cases here: the past, if the user's hosting the activity, and the default case. And the default case is just going to return all of the activities that are in the future. The case where the user's hosting, it's just going to be all of the activities where the user is a host. And in the case of the past, it's going to be all of the activities that are prior to today's date. And we're going to take these activities and pass them into a list. So we're going to execute this query to get our list of activities. And this is not our activities, by the way, sorry. This is going to be our user activities. And then we're going to create a new list of activities to return, which are going to be our user activity DTOs. And then for each activity in the activities, we're going to loop over them, and we're going to return a new user activity DTO for each of those. Then we're going to add this user activity to our activities to return list, and then simply return the activities to return. And with our handler, let's just go to our profiles controller. And what we'll do in here is we'll just create a new method to get these list of activities. So we'll say HTTP gets, and we want to specify the username, and then /activities. And what we'll do, we'll say public async task, and we're going to be returning a list of our user activity DTO, and let's make this an action result to be consistent with everything else that we've done. And it's not strictly necessary because either way we'll be returning a 200 with this. But since I've been using action result for everything else, this is really just for consistency. And we'll call it getUserActivities. And we'll take the string of the username and the string of the predicate here. And we'll also need to bring in system collections generic as well. And all we want to do here is return await mediator.send, and we'll have a new list activities.query, and then we'll set the username equal to the username, and we'll set the predicate equal to the predicate here. And with this in place, let's go and test in Postman to make sure this particular request is working. So let's head over to Postman, and we've got 4 different requests here. We've got the get all of Bob's activities, and if we click send, we should see that we get back the activities for Bob, and it's just these properties, the ID, the title, the category, and the date, and we should see all of those. Also, we've got an option to get Bob's activities in the past, and we're setting the predicate equal to past here, so we'll click send, and this just returns the past activities. We've got the option to get Bob's activities in the future, and if we click send, this returns all of the future activities, and this is just the default case we're using here. And then finally we've got the predicate for hosting, and this should just return the activities that Bob is hosting, and if we click send, then this just returns the activities for Bob that he's hosting. So like I say, nothing really new going on here, and I've given the code here just so we can move quickly on from this and just set up the functionality in our application. And what we'll look at next is adding the functionality on the client side.